Hello, everyone. This is Yvonne and Lyle. Welcome to our true crime podcast today.
Come on right along, let me tell you a tale.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to WTBL Walking the Blue Line. This week, we have another murder mystery for you, and we're calling this the Milkshake Murder. It happens back in 2018 in a little town not far from Spokane called Cheney, Washington, somewhere that you're kind of familiar with.
Yeah, I used to live out there for a while, many years ago. The college town, that's where Eastern Washington University is, and actually you and I both went there for some classes. And it's also very rural, lots of country land, but mostly farming, and they grow a lot of wheat out there.
Yeah, so it's a nice place. The story hinges on the Pettis family. David and Peggy Pettis live out near Cheney, Washington. Peggy has actually worked for the Cheney School District for about 20 years, driving bus, and her and Dave been married about 33 years. They got married in 1985.
And they had two children?
Yeah, they have two children, Elizabeth and David Jr. So this incident happened on June
25th.
2018. What did happen on that night?
Dave said that him and his wife kind of had a routine. She liked to have a drink, and then they'd usually have some ice cream or a milkshake. And sometimes she'd be in pain. So he said that she couldn't swallow pills very well. So he'd crush them up and put them in her ice cream, and they'd eat that. And then they'd watch television and then go to sleep. But on this night, it seemed like it went a little differently.
Right. I think that he does fall asleep on the couch, and she decides to go to bed around 8:30.
Yeah, and then he says that he wakes up around 10:30 and he decides, well, I'm going to go to bed because he's on the couch. And so he gets up and he finds Peggy laying on the floor.
And she doesn't seem to be responsive, so he immediately starts CPR and calls 911.
Yeah, and he tells the 911 operator that they need to call the medics out.
Right, so the fire department gets there, and they too try administering CPR for a little bit, but
Unfortunately, that doesn't work, and she passes away.
So in Spokane County, at least, every time there is what they call an unattended death, where the hospital isn't involved or hospice, then an investigation is started. And so the sheriff's deputy is there that evening to start that investigation.
They came out and they take a bunch of pictures, and he is telling them how this went down, and it doesn't seem like anything is out of the ordinary. It doesn't look like there was a struggle. No, nothing is, ringing any bells that something's foul play here.
And not only does the sheriff's deputy respond, but a medical examiner investigator also, and he doesn't see anything.
And his parents were actually there asleep in the other room, and they didn't wake up.
Yeah,
So,
it was obvious that there hadn't been a fight.
right.
So because they most likely would have heard something.
Going on. Yeah. So everything seems to, look pretty legit, like what he said.
So as protocol, then Peggy's body is transported to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy to be performed the following day.
Yeah. And they do the autopsy, but the results don't come back right away. And Dave starts getting a little frustrated with this, and he starts calling and wanting to know, when is he going to get the answers to this autopsy?
Right. I mean, these things don't happen overnight.
Right.
Autopsy results can sometimes take a couple of months.
And he's not very patient right now. He says he needs those results so that he can pay for the funeral.
And at the same time, the family's taking notice of this. It isn't just like strangers or anything, but Melissa, who is Peggy's sister and happens to live right next door, she's really suspicious. She calls the sheriff's office.
And she says that things just aren't adding up to her. She says he's telling different stories and he's acting peculiar, and he's just doing things and saying things to people that don't make any sense.
Right. Additionally, even his own daughter, Elizabeth, talked with Melissa and said, I found some unusual text messages from this woman, Robin.
Yeah. And Robin is a lady that he met when he went back to New York, which is where he's from, for a funeral back in November of 27.
Yeah. So that's 6, 8 months before Peggy passes away.
And so at the funeral, they used to be girlfriend and boyfriend. So they kind of had a little spark between them.
Right. Since Dave originally grew up in New York and has kind of some family and friend connections back there, Robin was an old high school flame.
When his daughter brings up those text messages, they kind of started looking into it. These were kind of spicy text messages.
Yeah, I mean, the family's certainly alerted that these messages start well before Peggy has passed away. So
Right.
seems like something inappropriate's going on here. The other thing that Melissa had said that she thought was really suspicious was the fact that before her death, Peggy had told her that they were trying to get this life insurance policy.
That's right. She had to go have a physical because the policy was on her. Dave wanted to get it. And so she went and had the physical, and everything seemed fine. She was of good health. The doctor said she didn't seem to have any dementia. She wasn't taking any pain pills at that time, although earlier, like I think it was a few years earlier, she had been gored by a hog and had taken pain pills then. But at the present, she was not taking anything.
Right. So that prescription from a couple of years ago never got renewed.
No, and so when Dave was telling people that he was putting this in her ice cream at night, kind of raised a few red flags.
Exactly. So Melissa recalled one other weird story, which happened just like a day before Peggy's death, which is that Dave had given her some medication to supposedly help her sleep, and she woke up the next day feeling totally awful and said she would never take that medication again. So Dave's actually telling all of these stories to all of the family as to what led up to Peggy's passing.
Yeah, he's starting to say that she can't remember things, that she's not paying bills when she said she paid them, that she's been in a lot of pain, so she's taking a lot of pain pills. And he's even given some discrepancies about what happened that night. Like he told some people that when he found her that she had like water coming out of her mouth and the blankets wrapped around her legs, but in the pictures that the officers took, there was none of that.
Right. The description of the scene doesn't match. Um,
And neither does the description of Peggy because the doctor said she didn't have dementia, she wasn't in pain, she wasn't taking pain pills.
and it wasn't just the doctor. All of the people that knew her said that
Friends
she
and
was
family, yeah.
smart as a whip and hadn't lost a beat. But
Right.
Dave's really portraying her as this person that just can't remember.
Full and in lots of pain, can't swallow pills.
The investigation gets underway, and we have a lot of things to look at. We're going to look at communication records. We're going to look at the life insurance policies. We're waiting on the autopsy results, and then just a bunch of people to interview because there's so many different things that are being said.
So he went to New York a couple of times before Peggy died, and then he wanted to go back to New York when they were actually having a memorial for his wife. And Robin, who was in New York, said, "No, I don't think it's appropriate that you come right now. You need to wait." So he did, but he was planning some trips.
That initial trip after Peggy's death actually got Robin a little bit spooked, and now
Yeah. He's
his girlfriend is thinking maybe he
Maybe
did
he
this.
did do this, but he even started looking at some houses to purchase, like next to hers, and she became very uneasy. But
Right.
then he did something even more weird. He ended up not going home from her place. He flies down to Florida.
Yeah, he had made arrangements through some dating websites to meet up with a couple of other people.
Yeah.
One who was staying in a hotel in New York City, and then a gal down in Florida before coming home. Now, some people would maybe say, he's a widower, he's allowed to date, but this is so sudden that the family just doesn't feel comfortable. We hope that you're enjoying today's podcast.
And if you are, please like, subscribe, and share. So the autopsy results still haven't come in, and Dave's getting upset about that. He even goes as far as to call the governor's office to complain. Then he decides that's not good enough, so he actually reaches out to KHQ, a local news station, and he has them come out to his house and do an interview of him.
And he tries to make himself look like he's a pretty meek and mild individual.
Oh, yeah. It looks like a big teddy bear that's just, lost his best friend.
But other people aren't really reporting him as acting that way.
No, they're almost reporting it the opposite.
So I found through my investigation that Dave actually had a thing for insurance.
Yeah, he had filed numerous claims since 1996.
Yeah, this would have been the first life insurance, but
Right.
I think he felt that a living could be made off of filing these kind of claims. So he had 4 that were arson related.
And 10 that were suspicious theft or losses. And all of them he was able to claim on. So he had kind of become comfortable with this.
Right. And so this doesn't really become too much of an issue at trial because no wrongdoing has
Right.
been proven, but it definitely shows a pattern of going after insurance policies. During the interview, Dave makes numerous representations that aren't true, one of which had to do with the life insurance policy. He said it was only $150,000,
Yeah, in actuality, it was $250,000.
and it became effective only 3 days before Peggy was murdered,
June 22nd.
and she passed on June 25th.
Yeah,
That's kind of coincidental timing.
it is. It's a little eerie.
So when Dave was asking for the money from the life insurance, and he says that he needs to pay for a funeral,
Yeah, but come to find out, they didn't really have a big funeral. They did have a memorial, but she was cremated, so they didn't have to bury her or pay for a casket or anything like that.
so the expenses, although there were some, were not huge like he was claiming, and they were paid long in advance of him ever getting money from a life insurance policy.
Exactly.
So another claim that Dave made was about the visit to Rockwood Clinic for the physical.
Yeah, he claimed that while they were there and doing that, that his wife was given these memory tests.
They had gotten things to put on their iPad to improve her memory.
Yeah, like puzzles, they said. And he said that she had been doing them to help her memory get better.
When the doctor was interviewed, none of that actually happened.
Right. They said that she was in very good health, great memory, and didn't seem to be in much pain, not anything that would, lead to what he was saying.
When the toxicology report does come back, they show that there's 10 times the therapeutic amount of hydrocodone in her system.
And no alcohol.
And this is huge because she doesn't have a prescription. And as well, the fact that there's no alcohol really contradicts what Dave said happened
Right.
that night.
And there was 2 to 3 different drugs that were detected in her, and he had a prescription.
He had given her one medication that he said came from a friend, but he wouldn't divulge the name of that friend.
Yeah.
So none of that is really making sense.
So you guys decide to call him in and have a little chat.
We do. The investigation's starting to culminate with all of these inconsistencies, and we need to talk to him about it.
Yeah. So they call him in, and you guys actually have like a very long chat, like about a 3-hour chat, right?
Had a couple of different interviews, but the last one where I'm going to confront him about all of these inconsistencies, Dave's very much feeling like he's in charge.
Oh, yeah. He thinks that he's got this all wrapped up. He's very narcissistic and thinks that he's smarter than you guys. And he just talks and talks. He thinks he's just going to walk out of there a free man.
He tries to explain away all of these different things, some of which he couldn't, like the medication in her bloodstream. The following is a small portion of the over 3-hour interview that we did with David Pettis.
So, in this interview, were you trying to get a confession?
No, I didn't really think he would ever confess to me, but I was interested in not only what he said, but how he said it.
I noticed when I was watching it that he didn't seem overly endearing towards his wife. He usually referred to her as this woman or that woman.
Yeah, it's funny at the end, he talks about how Peggy was supportive of his extramarital relationship with Robin.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. It was like he was saying Peggy was giving her blessing, but it was really a premonition of her death and what was to come.
It was eerie in that effect. So listen to the following interview and see what your thoughts are at the end.
Who'd you go to see in Florida? Well, I'm making a timeline of things that have happened here. And I'm just wondering if you can tell me.
I went to see a high school friend. I spent a couple of days down there, and she got just a little too, let's just say I wasn't into what she wanted, so I came home.
Okay. What is her name by chance?
Kathy, Missouri.
Kathy, Missouri. The reason I bring up some of these names is that, like I already told you, I mean, talking with family and such, a couple of people have suspicions that this isn't all looks like, I guess, on the outward appearance. So
Let's hear it. Well, what happened?
what truly
Truly happened where?
with your wife?
Not medication.
Now, you were telling the family that she's taken 3-4 hydrocodones with alcohol. And I can tell you that a portion of the toxicology report has come back, but not in total. The toxicology report would indicate she didn't have any alcohol. And the hydrocodone that she had taken that evening, crushed up, was 10 times the therapeutic amount, which you don't typically get that much in your system just by accidentally, taking 3 or 4 pills more than you should.
What's 10 times?
10 times? Well, the therapeutic amount would have been the amount probably within 1 pill.
Okay. She would have had 10 pills. That's not possible. So I can't even see where that could be even possible.
What medication did you give her the night before? Because she went over and told Melissa that something was making her
Oh,
go.
she took, so she calls it. What was in that bag?
There was trazodone.
She took trazodone with her hydros that night. She said it gave her a hangover the next morning. She wouldn't do that.
All right. And you told me that you had gotten the trazodone from an unknown person or a third party. And who is that?
Well, prefer not to bring it into it, because then this is just going to snowball into a pile of shit.
Okay. Well, I think that it might be in your best interest if you got the trazodone from somebody else and tell us who that might be. Because this is an investigation into what caused your wife's passing and the fact that she's got trazodone in her system.
Not very much she had trust on that night. Really?
Yes.
Well, then I would have no idea how the hell it would have got, because I can't imagine her taking that again.
Okay. Well, the pharmacy would say otherwise. You've gotten a prescription back, as well as you had in a more significant amount. Peggy only got 12 pills. If she's taking 3 or 4 pills at a time, she's going to go down through that in a very quick.
And somewhere in there, somebody probably would have told you that when her mother passed, she had 3 90-count bottles of that too that just miraculously disappeared too.
Her mother did?
And Sylvia Edwards when she passed.
And how long ago was that?
Oh, Christ, I don't know. She got her leg hurt. I see 2016. So Sylvia must have died in 14. I don't know. She used to bring the 90-count home from mom's all the time. And that was about it. She kept them locked up in the lockbox after the first of the year, because when the June come around and locked them all up. Even as she was taking 4.
Talk about crushing the pills out and putting them on food or something like that. Doesn't absorb into your system much faster. Perhaps you don't have to have a total of 10 pills. But at the same time, that's still a significant amount.
Yeah, it is.
More than what. And as you had told us earlier, I mean, supposedly she had alcohol. She has no alcohol in her system. Robin said that you told her this story about Peggy getting her leg tied up in the sheets. And none of the photographs or the testimony from the deputy that was out there has any indication that the sheets were wrapped around her leg.
The deputy also said that when we got there, she had already been pulled away and pulled into. I could get to her good enough to do CPR. It's a little off the mark a little bit.
Okay.
When I came in there, I told the deputy that when I found her, she was face down on the floor with one leg still caught in the sheets. I pulled her into the bathroom where I could get to her and started CPR. When I started CPR, started pushing on her chest, a mass amount of water and fluid came out her nose and mouth. The guy from the corner said, well, that's normal sometimes.
To some degree, what we call purge is normal, but it's not normally a mass amount.
I don't think it was a coffee cup. I mean, at the time, it felt like a coffee cup amount because there was a lot of freaking water. I figured it was probably just like a big swallow of water. Her water was spilled there beside her bed. I picked her glass up in the process of what they were doing, so I was trying to keep I was sitting there on the edge of the bed watching them. I picked up her glass. I put it up on them. I can't remember if I put it on the dresser in the bathroom, but it was there.
Have you talked with the life insurance company?
Well, One I did. They sent us a claim. The other one, Elizabeth found, she says it's dated for July 20th, I think, was its effective date. So I don't even know that was going to come into play. Although Elizabeth talked to some gal on the phone that says that it may. Yeah, there's two of them. One is and the other is through Protective Life. The Protective Life we found when Elizabeth was here, it's dated July 20th. But I think they said that it somehow came into effect 2 days before. But they'll probably fight it. The gal on the phone says that because that within 2 years they'll fight it. So really that one's probably flawed. That's what they're weighted down.
Right. Yep. Talk with them about that very fact. They have a 2-year policy. What do they call that? You're right. A claiming point. And that's through AIG.
Yep. And I think she's got a marital one through work. I can't remember what the total is. Still, it's the same thing.
But we would say it's the same thing.
And there's nothing can be done until this is all finalized anyway, so we have no idea what's going on with it.
The Plenty of Fish account, did you start that before?
What, a month? No, fuck no. When did I start that? I don't even know. No, it must have been almost September when I started that.
And Rita? Who's Rita?
Rita is somebody that was my friend's girlfriend. She lost her husband in 2011. She came here to visit because she knew what I was going through. On a motorcycle ride. And we went on a motorcycle ride down the wall to see a friend of ours that's in a penitentiary. Period. End of story.
What's Rita's last name?
Chamberlain.
And she doesn't live here locally?
She lives here in Spokane. She's with her husband, boyfriend right now.
Well, as I said, I've talked with a number of people, and there's a sequence of events here that doesn't look right. And from, I think, almost any outsider, you're going to say it looks suspicious, and to your family, it looks suspicious. Okay? All right? So what I'm wondering is, why did this happen? Because I don't think that it was, at this point in time, looking at all the evidence that has been presented to me, doesn't look like any type of an accident. This looks like, I think back in November, you made a trip to New York to meet up with an old high school flame, and you start thinking of a different life. And from there, things kind of spiral out of control or whatever. A plan is put into motion. And here we are today.
Off the mark there, but okay, I'll bite.
All right, so what was the plan?
So it wasn't a plan.
Well, you go 1 year from you're making a new business, a butcher shop, that kind of thing, to the next year you're ready to sell the place and move. Your family says that you're completely sporadic. One day you're going to the coast to retire. The next day you're staying here. One day you're going to...
And they thought this was all after my wife died. So, of course, my mind was get the fuck away.
Well, I don't think that was all before.
And I think if you had talked to my dad, he would have probably told you that my wife and I had already planned on selling the place this spring from last year. Last spring, we talked about this spring coming up, about selling the place and either moving to the coast or moving back home. She said, I've been here with her and her family for 30 plus years, that she wouldn't mind going back to see her family. She knew my mother, she knows my cousins, she knows everybody.
That isn't what everybody else is going on. Figure shitting.
That's because not everybody else is privy to what goes on between my wife and I.
The fact is like I said, she's got a significantly higher dose in her bloodstream than what you described. At least I heard a couple of family members that you had crushed the bills and put it in.
I never told a single family member that I crushed.
Well, that's not what they told me.
No, I don't care what they told you. I never told a single family member that I crushed her bills.
Where'd that pill crusher go?
She bought that pill crusher from wherever, some little place in town. I don't know if she got it from Howell or she got it from Bywater, where she got it. Couldn't tell you.
Sure, it's a pill crusher.
Oh, it's a little round thing you put pills in. It's got a space in the bottom to hold them. So I am pretty sure.
Sure it's not called a marijuana grinder?
I'm pretty sure.
Think you could have bought it at a marijuana store?
I don't know. No idea.
It looks like a marijuana grinder. I just saw a picture of it.
I don't think it is.
It looks like that's what I asked.
I mean, when you go on the internet and look for a pill crusher, I mean, it's almost the same exact thing. I don't know. I thought marijuana
Commonly found. That's why I asked. I've never seen a pill crusher in like Walgreens or
something. I think Bymark's got them. But I don't know. But it's got compartments in the bottom. Why would a marijuana thing have?
You grind the marijuana crystalline substances, the THC falls out and goes to the bottom. And
evidence was collected, but there's no screen on this. It's just two little plastic. I haven't seen other thing. It's just two little plastic textured things in there that kind of grind against the head. Right? There's nothing going on here. Regardless of what you suspect, there's nothing going on here. I mean, I spent time on the couch because of my shoulder. Not too long before this, I had gone in MRI done. They said there was narrowing in there. Done all this, you probably know that too. So yeah, a pinched nerve, it causes problems, and the pinched nerve feels like it's bone on bone in there, and the only thing we do is get my arm up in a neutral position to make it go away.
Well, I get that. Like I said, there's a sequence of events, though, that seems fairly odd. And it doesn't just seem odd to me. It seems odd to those people that would be closest to you, your wife, you know. And based on what you're talking about, I suppose there's the possibility that if you really thought she was suffering, maybe there's an alternate here. Then you just want to go off and live
I was married for 5 years. Okay, this woman was my life. Period. When you go someplace and when you introduce someone, this is my better half. Well, I'm here to tell you that if anything ever happens to your wife, you're going to learn that your wife was not your better half. She was a lot more of you than what half. This woman was my life. Period. I have nothing but emptiness without her. It's just every day I walk out in the garden, and I swear to God, I could see her in the garden, kneeled down, weeding in the garden. You know, that's the problem that Dad said he had. That's what Mom said, it's with their reason for moving. Is when Dad goes out there to weed whack and stuff like that, it was just so overwhelming to him. You can just imagine what it's like to me. You know, I go out to feed the animals. I've gotten rid of the majority of the animals because when I go out to feed the animals, I'm filling buckets and I'm sliding buckets over to the side thinking she's grabbing the buckets full. She's not there anymore. I go through this every single day. I got plenty of fish, and if you read the damn thing about plenty of fish, you can see on there, and I'm looking for somebody just to hang around with. That's all I want. I wasn't looking for a one-night stand or a fling. I'm looking for company in my life. Somebody. My dad moved out. My kids, for whatever reason, my son doesn't talk to me other than this morning. He's started to come around. Children. I wake up in the morning, I roll over, I have a fucking dog beside me. That's it. 35 years I had some woman beside me to love me, to hold me, to trust me, to nothing. It's like putting a crack in the goddamn room with nothing but a toilet and taking everything away just cold turkey. I mean, it's the worst feeling in the world that there is.
And I can imagine that it is. I can imagine that you've gone down this path that now you have nothing. I mean, at the time, when you went back in August and visited Robin, she somewhat said some of the same things, that maybe things seemed somewhat suspicious.
In the beginning, she said, when they came to me, she says, first thing went through my mind, and she's like, no, that's not possible. Not possible.
But yet that thought is there.
It's crossed a couple people's minds.
Right.
You know, see Rolla the first. I read the case. He's my partner in my office, but there's kind of I didn't go back to see Robin the first time. I went back for my stepfather's funeral in November, and Robin was at the funeral. There was no go back to see Robin. I went back there for the funeral, and Robin and I kind of met up at the funeral, and things started to push the wrong way, so I left early. I came back home early. Told my wife what had happened back there. She said, well, I think she even talked to Elizabeth. I'm not sure. But I told her, I said, I think just got a little uncomfortable to me, so I came back early. And we talked about it a little bit. She's like, she's 2,600 miles away. I'm here. I have the ring on my finger. She doesn't. Where I left off. My wife and I were about as open as we had no secrets between each other. If something happened, I'd go to her and I'd tell her. You know, when I came back in for something like that, I told her, or I don't remember what the hell it was now. Anyway, I told her that I still had feelings for her, and that for your wife, well, I said, you know, after 40-some years, it's amazing. I still have feelings for her. And her and Robin had a conversation about it. They talked about it. He told me a long time ago, she says, if anything ever happened to me, it'd be nice to know that he's got somebody, because if I go, he'll lose his fucking marbles. So because I get out there and I'm trying to find somebody to be with, now all of a sudden I'm the bad guy.
Well, the problem was that, I mean, part of that happened before, you know, your wife was out of the picture. indicated to us that you tried to make it romantic. I mean, you guys are sleeping in the same bed. She's trying to comfort her, and you're coming on to her, which made her uncomfortable, according to her side. So,
Yeah, well, when I stayed there in November, there was only one bed available. When I stayed there in March, there were two beds, and I stayed out in the second bed in March.
isn't that when she came out and laid down and rubbed your back? And well, that's because you were having a hard time breathing. Did you tell your wife before you went back in February?
So
What happened in November?
and then over there, and she didn't have any problem with me staying with Robin the second time.
But Robin become uncomfortable.
I don't know if she did or not. I have no idea. I'm the one that left early because I was the one uncomfortable about it.
So what was
When I came back home, I told him the same thing. It's just that I said, I can't do this anymore. I says, it's just, I'm afraid something's going to go. And then Robin had said in March or something like that. I think it was March when we went back. She said, well, I got a real interesting text from your wife. And I said, what was that? And I can't remember what the hell it was, but she read it to me, what the text was. And basically the text from Peggy led her to believe that if something should happen between us, that it wasn't a big deal because she was here and she was there. She knew it wasn't going to go anywhere.
And so what was that all about in March or whenever it was that you came back? Message that your dad sent to you that there'd been some,
Yeah, I needed a way out. You know, I needed a way to get the hell out of there without raising the big stink. So that's what had happened. I got a message from my son. Says I got to go. I changed my plane tickets so there was no big stink made. I left.
so that was just a kind of a quick made up story or something like that. And then you'd originally planned on going back in July when, right after Peggy's passing.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Because I wanted out. Same thing my son did. I don't know why you see a problem with that. I wanted the hell off that property. I wanted off that property now. When he showed up that single day that she died and said, I'll buy this property, I just sold that son for a minute just to get the hell out of there. You can't be in one place for 30-some years and make that many memories and be comfortable there without the person beside you. It's impossible.
A little bit. And then you went to Rockwood Clinic with Peggy during her physical. Told the doctor that
If that's what it was.
okay,
So she had memory problems. Docs. She said just keep an eye on her, let her do her same things every single day. Just periodically check on her to make sure that, she's on track. Things. But don't make a big deal out of it because the extra stress would cause more problems.
but again, I don't think that's quite what the doctor was there. And so the physician told me that because you were afraid that would affect the life insurance.
No, it wasn't anything to do with life insurance. Peggy didn't want the brand. She didn't want the stigma.
Did she ever talk to anybody?
We talked about it a couple of times. Grandmother or mother or whoever the hell it was, somebody had it. And when we got online, we read about it a couple of times. Apparently, I guess it's hereditary or something.
But the reality was that Peggy hadn't forgot to pay the bills. It was more that you guys couldn't afford to pay the bills. But your account has a lot of overdrafts.
It sure does. It's had a whole bunch after she was been gone.
Well, even before she was gone.
I wouldn't know because I didn't do the accounts. She did.
So hearing from the rest of the family, the reason the bills weren't being paid was because you couldn't afford to pay the bills at different times. You wouldn't agree with that, or what?
No. We were supposed to be off a month. Sometimes we were off 4. We only had savings for 2. Right? So we went through a couple of months that we weren't able to make truck payments. The bank was okay with us because they knew we caught up. So it wasn't a big deal.
Okay. So you would stick by the fact that you believe she didn't make payments because she forgot.
Well, back when she supposedly forgot to pay the fuel bills, that was a year or so ago. We were on the Avista job, and we were making pretty damn good money. There was no reason why the fuel bill wasn't getting paid. We take that percentage right off the top. That's what's supposed to get paid instantly. No fuel, no truck, no money.
Right. So other bills were okay to let slip.
Our priority was the house and to keep the truck rolling.
All right. This year, if I wanted to take a look at your cell phone, would you be opposed to that? Probably. Is there something that I shouldn't see?
I have no idea. Is there something you're looking for?
Text messages, search history from a variety of whoever you're texting with.
Okay, so what does that have to bear on what?
It has to bear on the relationships that you might have or the various things, whether you've talked with anyone.
But the rest of it, if he didn't have an answer, he would deflect and try to change the subject.
Oh, yeah. He was always trying to work his way into making her look sick, feeble, in lots of pain. I mean, it just goes weird.
So you've just heard a small portion of David's story in terms of the death of his wife and his relationship with Robin.
So join us next week for part 2, where we hear Robin's side of the story about their relationship and the death of his wife.
And a little bit more about how some of the evidence relates to this investigation. Until next week,
Bye.
From our hearts to yours, we hope you find a little bit of hope on the blue